Welcome once again to Wheels. Tonight it's Snetterton and it's motor racing, a variety of shapes, sizes and ages, and that's only the drivers. The cars are pretty varied too. We've got road vehicles and we've got single-seaters, we've got lines of the past, we've got leaders of modern fashion. One of the feature races will be the Formula Ford 1600 Champion of Snetterton series, a series dominated by the name Van Diemen. The manufacturer is based beside the circuit here, with outlets now worldwide in 17 countries. For a car you can put on the track for around £15,000, although that's only the start. And we shall also be joining that special breed of competitor who drives to the circuit in his car, races it and drives it home again, sometimes. But first, it's the QED historic Formula 3 race. As you know, Formula 3 racing is the most significant of the single-seater class. If you want to get to the top, you have to be successful in the Formula 3, but that is very expensive. This is very different. This is for Formula 3 cars built between 71 and 73, the era of James Hunt and Alan Jones, before big changes were made in 1974. It's strictly controlled and restricted so that it keeps down the costs. The cars are certainly historic. The drivers, well, best described as vintage. For instance, Peter Gillam from Loughborough, who's the leader of the series, he's a driving instructor at Silverstone, is 39 and well below the average age out here. Let's join commentators Keith Huewen and Chris Carter.
And old motor cars and old drives in the main. The lights go from red to green, and number 16 stalls it, oh dear, right on the grid. And that's a worrying moment for Gareth Burnett from Carnville, but trying to get the motor going. And he's actually not off, last off the grid, number 24, Robert Lansley is. And meanwhile, the front men go hurtling on out on the first lap. Number 10, John Holroyd. Well, what a remarkable sort of race this is. A lot of old cars and old men, but would you believe that this man, John Holroyd, is 62 years of age? Does he think he's too old to still be racing?
Why? That's a funny question. I wouldn't be doing it if I was too old, would I? No. But I mean, I'll go on motor racing. People play golf, it's my sport, you know, so you just go on as long as you feel that you're competitive and you can do the job. I mean, people don't play golf, don't stop playing golf or cricket or anything like that just because of their age. It's irrelevant. You know, I mean, motor racing is a sport like any other, and all the lads you'll see here today are here because they enjoy motor racing, not because there's any particular money in it for them. This is a club racing day, and that's the attitude of most people. If they feel that the hassle is too much for them, they'll retire.
And problem for 24, he was last off the grid, and he's having still more problems around the circuit. And John Holroyd under pressure now, but still holding on to the lead. But for how much longer? Oh, slots it. I suppose when you get to that age, you can be a bit more reckless, can't you, Keith?
Yes, you should be careful what you say, Chris. You might not make that age.
And
number 8 sneaks through there. Our man Alan Goodman in the Mark 733.
Well, Alan Goodman, who qualified in 3rd place, just ahead of John Holroyd, then snatches the lead on the 3rd of this 10-lap race. But John Holroyd has not given up.
And to make up the 3rd things, Alan Goodman is also 3rd in the series at the moment, the QED Classic Formula 3 Championship Series.
And still hard-fought little battles.
Gareth Burnett making amends for an absolutely lousy start where he had both hands in the air and let everybody go and handicapped himself severely.
He was praying at that moment with both hands in the air, praying that no one was going to run into the back of him.
I must say I had a little prayer for him as well from where I was sat. I thought if he had a larger grid than 10 cars, perhaps he would have got one straight into the rear of his car.
And Gareth Burnett, then number 16, beginning to close on the 3rd place man, number 3, Peter Gillan. And looking for a way through, of that there is no doubt. Well, and John Holroyd is certainly not giving up hope of regaining the lead from number 8 either.
Well, I think we're in for some great battles here. Number 16, Gareth Burnett, really looking for the inside line into Rich's. Great stuff. He's going to outbreak that man there. Number 3, Peter Gillam, being shown the way into Rich's corner.
So, number 16, Gareth Burnett takes 3rd place. now has his sights set on number 10, John Holroyd.
Of course, number 8, Alan Goodman, is benefiting from all of this crisscrossing going on, but it looks like Burnett's got the inside line on Holroyd this time, but we've seen the door slammed before.
Well, I think he's got him this time, but it's probably a bit premature to say so. John Holroyd will not give way. Finally forced to admit defeat. So push back now to 3rd place, and Gareth Burnett moving 1 place closer to the front. There's number 3. That's Peter Gillen, the championship leader, who, would you believe it, is down in 4th spot at the moment. Oh, and the challenge for the lead.
Yes, and exactly the same place again. Gareth Burnett got the drive out of Russell's. His car is superbly fettled. Got the drive out of Russell's up the straight. Didn't even have to do an outbraking manoeuvre into Rich's here. The man might have stalled it. I think he'd done that on purpose, didn't he? He knew he was going to be on camera. Decided to stall it at the start just to give the others a chance, I think.
So Gareth Burnett in the Palliser WD3 Lotus Holt powered jobby takes the lead. Well, no. A change of plan there.
Yeah, Alan Goodman decided that no, we're not having any of that. Decided to
rewrites the script.
Yep, I think that Gareth Burnett has now got a fight on his hand. I think it's been declared.
Yeah, maybe caught him napping on the previous lap. They've done 6, they're about to complete 7. And they are now beginning to leave John Holroyd behind. Well, it'll be interesting to see the lap times as they fight it out, because I think they are definitely quickening their pace. John Holroyd, though, perhaps slowing a little bit because he's about to be caught by Peter Gillen. Side by side again. Can he go round the outside this time?
Well, Gareth Burnett, he had a lot of drive out of Russell's. The man had his front end right under the tail of number 8, Alan Goodman. Oh, dear me. Well, there's no harder way than round the outside, and he decided, well, it doesn't matter which way I'm going to pass. It's definitely my race, this man has decided. Number 16, Gareth Burnett.
And a chance to see that little sprint to the right-hander. Let's talk through it, Keane.
Yes, he had his nose cone right under the rear wing there of number 8, Alan Goodman. Got the drive out of Russell's corner, didn't really have to do too much about it, but found himself on the outside of the turn into Rich's, which is always a difficult position to be when you've got a tough guy on the inside. No trouble from this man. Number 16 sticks it across the front there, holds the outside line and just drives around the outside of him. Brilliant manoeuvre.
Well, I'm sure when that motor stalled at the start, Gareth Burnett didn't think for 1 minute he was going to win this race.
Well, he certainly put in a very spirited and determined drive from the back. He was as near as damn it dead last, and made tremendous progress early on. I think he was well fired up by the fact that he'd stalled it, annoyed with himself, and done the business.
Yes. Sometimes the old red haze helps, doesn't it?
David Pearce goes through, back with the leader. Through Coram for the last time.
And it's going to be a win and a very good, hard-earned victory for number 16, Gareth Burnett from Carnville. The checkered flag being held ready. And the checkered flag goes out. Victory then for number 16, Gareth Burnett. In second place, number 8, Alan Goodman. Third is number 3, the championship leader, Peter Gillen. And just behind him, a fine ride for number 10, John Holroyd, with number 7, Dave Pearce, in 5th spot.
So the winner, Irishman Gareth Burnett, at 28, comfortably the youngest driver in the race. Alan Goodman, a mortgage broker from Reading, 2nd. Series leader Pete Gillen, 3rd. And John Holroyd of Leeds, 62 and still full of running, equalled his best result of the season by coming 4th.
Well, Gareth, well done. You made it hard for yourself at the start, though, by stalling. What happened there?
Well, it's the first gear exploded on the line, so totally lost first gear. For a few seconds, didn't know what had happened. Then just sort of got second, realised there was gears there, and decided I was going to go for it.
So it wasn't just a matter of giving the others a chance, then?
I don't think I've ever driven like that before. Certainly not round here, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Another of the classes here with a strong whiff of nostalgia about it is the pre-83 Formula 2000, sponsored here by Universal Racing Services, who are based in Norfolk. Formula 2000 was formed in the mid-70s, was at its most popular in the early 80s. In 1982, Ayrton Senna drove one for a season, but now it's a class very much for weekend drivers. Strict limitations are aimed to keep the costs right down. The drivers tend once again towards the mature. Leading the field here is number 8, Jeff Gresswell from Scunthorpe, who's got almost twice as many points as anyone else. As we rejoin Keith and Chris.
All eyes on the traffic lights. They go from red to green, and the charge is on. And a fairly dramatic start for everybody except one poor soul at the back of the pack, and it's Steve Nichols who almost led. Oh dear, and somebody goes off. It was Steve Nichols who made a bit of an error. He was one on the front row of the grid, and that caused chaos for number 42, Dave Nichols. And Steve Nichols in the black car, there he is in third place. He was the one who had problems at the start. He, talking of problem, oh dear, well.
He's got a problem there.
Yes, well, another problem. He parked it very neatly. Back with the race leaders though, and Steve Nichols pulling out of the slipstream, looking for the inside line. He's got it. Up into second place, a fine piece of driving. Oh, but a fight back there by number 8, Jeff Griswell. And Steve Nichols. Oh, and he spins it. Well, was that suicide or was it murder? Was it self-inflicted?
It looked like a bit of a forced error, I think we can say, from this point at a time, not being in the cockpit.
Well, this is a class that brings together all sorts of people. There's number 80, Steve Nichols. Now, I wonder what Steve Nichols does for a day job.
Well, the day job is being the chief designer for the Ferrari Formula 1 team. So that's the business end of things, and what keeps me going and pays the bills and pays for this.
But how often do you manage to get over to this country to drive in this championship?
I do this maybe between 8 and 10 times a year. I love Formula 1 because it is the pinnacle of the sport. It's highly technological, it's huge budgets, and virtually unlimited budgets. We can do whatever we want on the technological side, so it's the perfect for me, exactly what I would like to do as an engineer. But I also love this because it's it's the grassroots of the sport, and it's something that I can do myself, and I can really participate in a major way and drive the car myself, and the good ordinary people, and my friends are here doing this, so it's really fantastic for me to be able to experience the sport from sort of both ends of the spectrum.
Back with the race leader, and he's about to put his 5th lap in the book, and it's still as close and fearsome and frantic as ever. And we caught a glimpse there of Steve Nichols, who is slowly beginning to fight his way back up through the field.
Oh dear me.
Oh dear. Another bit of a problem. That could be Tim Jones, number 15, which we'll have to wait and see in a moment.
Yes, he's well parked in the second-hand tyre heat there, isn't he, really?
My apologies to both men. Stephen Pontin-Warlier, number 27, he
got it wrong.
He did. He
got it wrong.
Made a mistake.
He certainly did, through the bomb hole, that's for certain. That's a notorious place, and of course the Armco is not too far away from the edge of the track, so there's usually no chance for a recovery there if you do get it completely wrong.
Well, we saw the driver get out, didn't we? So we know he's okay. So Stephen Pontin-Warlier perfectly okay, but Jeff Creswell is out in front. He took the lead then on lap 9. They're on lap 10 of this 12-lap race, and well,
Jeff Creswell's leading the Class A Championship by a mile. 153 points to Dave Nichols, the second-place man in the championship, at 78 points. That is some lead.
Was the only other man since Kevin Keegan to be a success from Scunthorpe, I would have thought. So, the race leader crossing the line to complete 9 laps, and we're back with this battle. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Well,
that's a shortcut I didn't know about.
Well, obviously, he didn't he must be one of the competitors you were talking about earlier who didn't like that chicane.
Well, Peter Dickinson certainly made a bit of a mess coming in there on the brakes, didn't he? Peter Dickinson, number 29, the third one in this shot. The dark-coloured car on the brakes. Oops, getting it a little bit wrong there. Heads for the sand. Oh, and a nice bounce. Not bad at all. Cuts the corner off. Keeps the motor going. Gets the traction back on and back on the gas. And away we go.
Doesn't lose a place either. That was fairly skillful. And Steve Nichols, for those who want to know what it is, in 7th place, or looking in fact to go 6th.
Peter Dickinson coming under tremendous pressure there from Steve Nichols. That is amazing. He has not given up this race, has he?
No, absolutely not. There's two very determined souls there. And the race leader then just negotiating the chicane, using all the track as opposed to some of his rivals. And the race leader then about to take the checkered flag, Jeff Greswell then from Scunthorpe, number 8, the winner of this Ford 2000 Championship race. A fine result, but it's still desperate stuff behind him. Really is a remarkable charge. 21, 42, 44, and where's Steve Bailey going to be? Oh, half a car's length behind number 15, Tim Jones. So a great race, a great drive, and really entertaining stuff, but a win, and a convincing win for number 8, Jeff Greswell.
So a comfortable win for Jeff Greswell, the Scunthorpe pharmacist, averaging almost 92 miles an hour, just about 9 seconds ahead of Gary Storer, who leads the B class. Dave Nichols of Bishop Stortford in 3rd, and Steve Nichols, no relation, pulling up into 6th after an eventful race.
Well, Dave, Steve, that was lively stuff. What happened at the start there?
I got rather a good start, rather too good really. I ended up going faster into Riches than these two, Steve and Jeff, I think it was.
Steve and the other Steve. Well, Jeff was in there too, so I suppose there were 4.
Steve
had a bit of a spin there.
Yes, I ended up being pushed a bit too wide and ended up on the dirt and spun. And then I was a bit too vigorous on the throttle trying to get back on the track, so I spun again.
I have to say there was a feeling that you might have been the man who helped him to spin, Steve.
Well, I tried to go outside the other Steve, Pontin Weltier, at the start and couldn't quite make it, and so he was coming a little wide. I had to go a little on the outside and ended up without any room.
And then you had your own middle spin.
Yeah, somebody else snuck down the inside of me at the second corner, so I was 4th down the back straight, but managed to get by that one. And then Jeff Greswell was in 2nd. I overtook him into the first corner, but unfortunately he attacked again in the second corner, and I tried to pinch in tight there to keep him behind, but I was on too tight of a line, and so I spun and then had to wait for all the cars to go by, so I was pretty much dead last then.
All in all, good fun, hey?
That's when I came up behind him again, just after he'd spun.
Back to the day job then, Steve.
Yeah, that's right, it's a little easier.
Well done.
And incidentally, news of Steve Pontin-Waltier's car, a sorry sight after crashing when he was in the lead. That was in fact rebuilt by Wednesday and heading for Ireland, where they're racing this weekend. Well, that was a real blast from the past with plenty of contentious racing. Next, it's more single-seater racing, the Formula Ford 1600 Championship, after this break. Feature now the HEAT Champion of Snetterton Series for Formula Ford 1600 cars. For many of the drivers, their first taste of single-seater driving. This is a car with a home and a history very much linked to Snetterton. The Van Diemen factory, literally across the road from the Snetterton circuit, accounts now for 70% of the world production of Formula Ford 1600 cars.
We've developed over the years, we employ between 35 and 40 people. We do make different types of car now for different situations, different companies. Formula Ford is our mainstay production, producing somewhere in the region of 100-120 cars a year.
Ralph Furman, a former mechanic himself, has a special affection for Formula Ford 1600, having seen many young drivers progress through the ranks, in his cars often, into Formula One. The company now has agents in 17 countries, and last year Van Diemen won 27 national titles worldwide.
A place like Australia, it's the main event. Every race is televised. In Europe, very, very strong national championships, where these young drivers wish to improve themselves, or indeed people wish to go cheap motor racing, really. relatively cheap motor racing.
One of Van Diemen's secrets is to follow the trends of higher formulae, but originate their own high technology developments, specialising in keeping the costs low and keeping safety standards high, making this class very competitive and even. 19 of this field of 23 starters are in Van Diemen cars. For many competitors, not only their first taste of single-seater driving, but a first chance to examine their own ability under pressure. And it was in a Formula Ford 1600 that Keith Huewen made the transition from motorbikes to car racing.
Everything is so totally different. You've got a framework all around you that you can jam your elbows in and hold onto the steering wheel because they're very, very twitchy and directional. And the slightest movement of the steering will have the thing snaking all over the track, as we'll see under braking and everything on the coverage that you're doing here with wheels. Cars, they look so out of control and they feel, to a novice, very, very strange indeed. As you say, on the right-hand side is the gear lever. It's a totally different type of gear shift. It's a bit of a crunchy gear shift and what have you. It feels like nothing else you've ever been into. Of course, you're laying on your back as well, feet forward. It's totally unreal.
So the lineup then for this heat champion of Snetterton Formula Ford 1600 series, George Cubitt then in pole position, car number 3. Next to him, 29, Carl Jarvis. On the second row of the grid, the Belgian Marc Delpierre, car number 12, and next to him, 48, Rob Perry. Car number 3, Sigmund Greengrass in car number 2, and number 81, Andrew O'Hara. Row 4, number 11, Jeremy Griffiths, and number 6, Nigel Mann. And then the man we'll be keeping an eye on, and so will you, because that's car number 1, Brian Robinson, with the in-car camera. He's back on row 9, and he's got an awful lot of work to do. Waiting for the cars to get finally into line. They go to red, to green, and away they go, and a fine start for number 29, Carl Jarvis, tucking in behind George Cubitt, and well, bobbing and weaving, but a good start it was, the white car of Carl Jarvis, and the rest of the pack already linked out behind. And there is the car of number 1, Brian Robinson. Remember, he was on the 9th row of the grid, qualified 18th, had problems with the engine in practice, Keith.
Yes, he had major problems all this morning. A 20-minute practice session to put times up, no second go at it. He had a problem with the engine. It's eaten the pistons, it's eaten the spark plugs, it overheated all the way through it, so he's got to work from the 9th row on the grid and try and get through this lot. Well, there we have a man with a rather spectacularly coloured car. Oh, and very close out of the bomb hole there, very close to the...
Got from 4th to 1st, though. So Cubitt back in front.
Cubitt's got the very latest equipment, RF90 Van Diemen, the very, very latest state-of-the-art Formula Ford racing. This is my favourite class of racing, you can see why.
Well, here they come. This is the end of the second lap, and despite my little moment of dramatic outburst, it's still George Cubitt with the advantage. And Rob Perry, number 48, in 4th spot. So we've got, in fact, the order is exactly as they qualified in practice. George Cubitt, quickest in practice. Carl Jarvis, number 29, who was second fastest in practice, second in the race. And the Belgian, Marc Delpierre, and side by side they go. And Delpierre on the inside, which is not the best line, but he may hang on, but he'll go wide. Well, that really was quite remarkable.
Well, he scrubbed off enough speed and held it nice and tight through the 3rd gear, first part of that corner, into 2nd gear through that part, 3rd gear now through the bomb hole, up to 4th, into Coram, flat out. They've only got 4 gears on these. The ratios are interchangeable, so they can alter the ratios to suit, but look at this man in front. He was 2/3 of a second quicker than anyone else, and his pole position time, and he is really in a class of his own here, isn't he?
And back with the in-car camera of Brian Robinson, who was absolutely devastated to have had mechanical problems in practice. He really was looking forward to doing well here, closing on the man ahead, looking for the inside line, so his progress through the field continues, but we've not got him on the lap chart at the moment, so we'll try and pick up where he is. There's the first 4 men going through. That's Cubitt, Delpierre, Jarvis and Perry.
Oh, and this is going to end in tears.
Oh, and Delpierre goes for the inside and he gets it.
Yes, threw it sideways on the brakes there into the bottom gear, first gear, Russell's Bend.
Up into 5th place, car number 2, Sigmund Greengrass. Well, Cubitt in a class of his own, but it's still very close, and they pull out of the slipstream there, and well, 3 different choices of racing line.
Yeah, only one of them's going to get through the corner at the right pace, though, that's for certain. These tyres, they're treaded tyres on these cars they get a little bit loose, I think we can say. But superbly competitive racing right the way through these junior classes up to the senior class, very well supported. A super career move type car race.
Brian Robinson up into 6th place then with our in-car camera, so he's chasing and changes there. Oh no, Delpierre hangs on. No, he doesn't. He loses 2nd place to Carl Jarvis. Carl Jarvis, number 29, just slipping through back into 2nd spot.
I was about to say earlier, our camera car, Brian Robinson, he's actually got the spare engine of George Cubitt. George Cubitt, that just goes to show you what these competitors are like, very friendly off track. He's lent his spare engine to the blown up Brian Robinson. There we are, on with Brian Robinson, Heat Electric Advisory Team sponsored motor car.
Oh, and a bit of a spin-off there for car number 17, Richard Harrison.
Yeah, Richard Harrison practicing his grass tracking technique on the old RF80. That's quite an old car, so a little bit outpaced in this particular hot race.
And that's a little battle further down the field. Still very hard-fought stuff. And back with the race leader, number 3, George Cubitt. His father Roger, running Cubitt Builders and Plant Hire Company at Ipswich.
And that's what he's studying at university for, building studies. I don't quite understand these things, but just to indicate the kind of money involved in this particular race, if you wanted to kit yourself out in a George Cubitt type car with a George Cubitt type team, you would need about £60,000, and in Chris Carter's case, a much wider car.
Oh dear, the old camera's got a bit skew-whiffed. Dear.
That puts a nice angle on it, doesn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Oh, and he's right off the track. Oh, that's out of Sears onto the Revit straight.
Well, a 4-way dice, and they're out of, or down the points, because the points go down a long way in this particular one. The battle is out in front. We'll stay with this scrap, though, because it's getting fairly desperate. And we go back to the leaders, who are on the final circuit. 9 laps have gone. '81 there, just a glance of Andrew O'Hara. And there's the scrap for 3rd and 4th place, I think. That's Carl Jarvis just having got the better of his rival at that particular moment. There's number 3, the race leader, George Cubitt, on his final circuit.
In the 1990 car, closely followed by another 1990 car. We have to say that Brian Robinson, by the way, is in an 88 car. It does make quite a considerable difference to these. They're the same make of cars. That's a 90 car, that's an earlier one.
And a big charge there from Carl Jarvis, who had qualified on the front row of the grid. The charge is on. He's trying to get close to Marc Delpierre from Namur in Belgium. Well, motocross fans will know about Namur, because that's where the Belgians hold their 500 motocross Grand Prix. And here they come. The checkered flag is being prepared, and he goes out for the race winner, number 3, George Cubitt. In 2nd place, the Belgian, in car number 12, Marc Delpierre. Up into 3rd place on the final lap, number 29, Carl Jarvis. A good win, though, for George Cubitt, and that means he extends his lead in this particular championship.
So George Cubitt strengthens his position at the top of the championship, and although number 12 Marc Delpierre crossed the line in 2nd place, he was penalised 10 seconds for cutting a corner and gaining 2 places, which in fact dropped him to 4th. And 6th place for Brian Robinson of Kenninghall, just down the road. Clearly his spare engine, very kindly lent by George Cubitt, held up better than our in-car camera. Brian coming from 18th on the grid to retain 2nd place in the championship behind George.
Was that fairly straightforward for you out in the front from the word go?
Well, once I got a slight lead, then it was really very easy. I didn't get a good start, so I was second going into the first corner, but I managed to get a good toe along the back straight and into the lead.
Now, what's all this about having to stay at university next year instead of progressing in motor racing?
Well, I have my final year at university, so I have to do well in that, so I shall stay in Formula Ford rather than going up a category, and perhaps review the situation in a year's time.
Well, that was a competitive breed and a really thriving business. Next on the grid, members of one of the biggest clubs in the world. That's after the break. Welcome back. Now for some fun and games with a variety of sports and saloon cars. The MG Owners Club is one of the biggest of its kind in the world. 52,000 members or more. It's based at Swavesey near Cambridge. It actually employs 50 people. And so many people want to compete in their championship, which started in 1981. They actually have 2 races here. Let's rejoin Chris and Keith.
Well, the balloon's gone up here at Snetterton, but down on the race circuit, the action is of a slightly more subdued nature. Not so much hot air, more hot exhaust gases. The lights go from red to green and off they go with this 10-lap Class A for the MG Owners Club Racing Championship, and they are 4 abreast going down into the first corner. They break formation. Well, this could easily be the early rehearsals for the East Norfolk formation crashing team, and there they go off. Well, that really was and it wasn't his fault, was it? It was there they go. I told you, the East Norfolk formation crashing team at rehearsals. Well, let's see the start one more time. Here we go into the first corner. Well, nothing too dramatic there. Oh yes, puffs of smoke. The yellow flag's going, and vehicles off the track in all directions. Cars to the left of us, cars to the right of us. Into the Valley of Turnips rode the 600. There's an awful lot of dust and smoke there.
Yes, they certainly want all of the track and a bit more, don't they, really? These are production type cars, so they're sort of moving around on their old-fashioned suspension fairly well at the moment.
Well, these are lovely cars, and the question is it wise to race them?
Well, I think most MG competitors seem to think that the traditions of the MGs are very much in a sporting background, and yes, we feel that they should be seen on the tracks. They've got a track history going back to rallies and Monte Carlo, Le Mans, and we believe, yeah, they should be raced.
And yet most of you are using them day to day on the road, aren't you?
A number of our competitors still use them day to day on the road, and we hope that there's no problems when they get home from the track.
Because you then got to polish them up and get home in the same car?
Well, that's the idea of it. You drive them here and hopefully you drive them home.
Tell me, have you had any sort of scrapes, any nasty pranks?
Well, it's close racing, and yes, I think there's always the odd occasion where your enthusiasm gets the better of you, and I'm fairly renowned for that.
And the pack beginning to close up again on the race leader, number 19, Richard Bennett.
Yeah, Bennett was...
Oh dear, that's...
Yes, that was one off the end of the straight that we saw pictured in the early melee. Obviously decided to rejoin complete with dent.
So Richard Bennett then, number 19, out in front, but only by a whisker. They're closing up on him. Number 26, Paul Willows, is the man putting the pressure on at the moment, but they're all lining up behind to have a go.
Yeah, Bennett was protecting his position off the end of the Revet straight there in the midget. To give you some idea, Class A consists of MG midgets, 1275cc, and MGBs, 1800cc, the more powerful but perhaps the more flexible vehicle on the track.
Well, they need to be flexible to cope with the demands placed on them. Still Bennett then with the lead, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars lining up behind to have a go. And well, there's another little 5-car group that is getting fairly desperate behind. I see the pickup truck touting for business in the background, and he won't be long before they need him, I think.
I think he's already overworked today.
Yeah, probably.
Richard Bennett, age 20, lives in Cardiff. He's a motor mechanic and he might well have to be after this race.
And the charge is on. Behind him, number 26. That's Paul Willows. Then in third place, number 3, Chris Stocks. Behind him, number 30, Mark Garner. Then completing that little group, number 86, Alan Springle from Hemel Hempstead. And here's the group behind, which is 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Oh dear God, they, well, oh dear, dear, dear. That is how number 88, Peter Stacey, ended participation in this particular race.
Yes.
Let's see it all again. Here they come.
Yes, number 69 at the back there, flashing with his only spare light. The other one's bashed in. Number 69 in amongst this again, as we can see. There's 69. That's Martin Watson, just about avoiding it round the outside. 88 spinning off to the inside. Peter Stacey parking up for a bit of a spectator's view.
I see another pickup truck was on the move behind. I think they must. Oh dear! And in the background, they're going absolutely all over the place. Well, this is no place to do donuts, is it?
Michael Gatton showing how it's done there.
Oh, back with the race leader and number 19, Richard Bennett, hanging on. Oh, I wouldn't park on the outside there, Sunshine, if I were you. There was a white car parked on the outside.
26, Paul Willows having a bit of a look in the midget.
And Willows having made a charge there, shuffling the cards all the way round. Now, number 5 has been moving up and down. Oh. And there they are, 4 abreast. Well, certainly 3 abreast, and Bennett still hangs on. But up into second place goes number 3, Chris Stocks from Huddersfield. Yorkshire lad then charging through into second place, and I think Bennett now has really got a problem on his hands. Oh, dear, dear, dear. I think he tied a knot in his arms end, Keith. I saw that. That was a granny.
Good job he didn't have a passenger. He'd have punched him. He was so busy trying to keep hold of the steering wheel.
Dear, dear, dear. Well, I can...
That's Paul Willows again, obviously there to build sandcastles while another one exits the sand pit.
Well, here we go. Look at the drivers. Here we go. In fact, well, number 30 is the one. There we go. Left, right, twist, down, over, under.
Well, that's a bit of an up and under from the MGB there. I'm glad he wore white gloves. Very graphic for us.
And Stocks looking for a way through. Can't do it. Gonna have to stay in line through the chicane. They will have done 6 laps, 4 more laps to go.
Will they last the distance? Chris Stocks is second in the current series positions at the moment. Only 5 points behind the leader, Terry Farman, who's not actually featuring too well in this race. I haven't seen him go off yet, but I can't see him anywhere else either.
Oh, and out of the slipstream comes number 86. That's Alan Springle, but he can't do it. He can't get past number 3. And, well, it really is very close, and any one of these 3 could do it still.
Oh, and he's having a look down the outside. He got good drive out of Sears onto the Revit straight.
Oh, and he's going to lean on him, go into the corner.
But he's on the outside. Bennett's on the inside into the next turn, which, if he leaves his braking nice and late.
Oh, a quick glance to the right, another hard look to the right. Oh, dear, dear, dear. And they were so busy looking at each other, they actually let the third man through go through. Well, I think Chris Stocks thought he'd done it. That really was superb. Poor old Richard Bennett, he was almost transfixed looking at Chris Stocks across the track, wasn't he?
And all while that was going on, there was one crashing off in the background as well. I could see at the end of the straight a white car spinning out at Sears.
Well, here they come again. Just look at the double take from Richard Bennett in car number 19. We'll see with the head-on shot in a moment as they come down the back straight, Keith. You just what he takes one glance to his right, and then he takes this hard glance. Right, that's to his left and to his right. Hey, what are you doing? How dare you come down? Look, he's staring at them all the time. Suddenly he goes storming through. Absolutely wonderful. That really was magnificent. Oh, problems for number 86, and that was the guy who just took the lead.
That was the race leader, yes.
That was the race leader. Well, short and sweet. That's a battle for 3rd and 4th place, and well, nearly a change there. The final lap, and that's number 30, Mark Garner, just holding off number 5, Andrew Storer. That's a puka pie midget, would you believe, being driven by Andrew Storer.
Well, there you go. Looks like it handles somewhat better than a puka pie, I've got to say.
There we go, number 30 just behind him is number 5. So that's Mark Garner and Andrew Storer. So the race leader's heading round towards the checkered flag. But this is the undisputed battle. And Richard Bennett gets a bit closer. Closer and closer. The sprint is on, the charge is on. Can he force an error out of the race leader? Well, maybe not.
Anything can happen in the last half mile, as they say.
And into the chicane for the final time. No, he's got closer, but he ain't going to do it. Oh, and it's still, and there's a change. Up into 3rd place goes the man with the puka pie job. And there are the front 2 men, the first 2 men home. Good win for Chris Stocks. And snatching back 3rd place on the line, number 30, Mark Garner, from number 5, Andrew Storer.
Well done, chaps. Great race. You managed to stay out of trouble and just pipped him to the post there.
Yeah, only just. I knew all the time he was right behind me. Watching me mirrors, I thought if I make one mistake here, he's through. So I just had to make sure I did it all, you know, correct. No silly lines and just keep it neat. Because I knew Richard would be right behind me. Once Terry gone off, there were only me, Richard and Mark in it. Andrew still had a go, but he's always quick as Richard, so you just got to keep it all together.
Richard, what is it about the midgets? Because I always understood that the Roadsters had more power.
Well, the midget is a small car, and it does have plenty of power in it, if you tune them correctly. It's just the braking and handling of the cars that seem a lot better than the B.
And there were a lot of incidents, quite a few drivers going off there. Could you see what was happening around the circuit?
Yeah, I mean, 1 minute I came out of the first corner up here, Richie's in 3rd. Next minute I went in 1st. Never did out towards it, and then went back in 3rd on the same lap. It were really close racing, but that's what we come for, innit? That's what we all want.
Well done, chaps. Enjoyed that, yeah?
Yeah, great.
Good race.
Cheers.
Thanks very much.
The other race under the wing of the MG Owners Club was for B and C class cars, 1600cc Maestros and 2-litre fuel injection Maestros, and there was one lone Metro in there which sneaked quite legally into this strong field.
Oh dear, dear, dear. Well, a lovely manoeuvre there by Steve Thompson. He lined you to... Oh! And, well, we were congratulating him too soon because that really was magnificent. Adrian Olsen had been outdriven, but he fought back superbly. A chance to see it again, a replay down the Mac Straight they come.
Well, Steve Thompson got the power on very, very well out of Sears onto the Revit Straight, got down the outside, which perhaps wasn't the best place to be, I've got to say, but he smacks across the nose there of Olsen. Olsen can do nothing about that, gets it all lined up and aims for the inside of Steve Thompson as they go into the tight part of the S's. Steve Thompson runs a little bit wide there, and yellow and orange do clash.
Ray Davis out in front to stretch the advantage. Raw Cotton, 100% Cotton, doing the business. Well, they're coming back on him again, though, Keith. It ain't over yet.
No, and he's got a lap to sort, well, less than a lap now to sort this particular problem out. And he's got the orange car right on the tail of the black number 2, Ray Davis.
Oh, and he's got, well, almost alongside them for a moment. And, well, Adrian Olsen was shown how to do it down the straight by Steve Thompson before. Now Steve Thompson looking for the inside line this time.
That's a much better line to be on if he can do it. The thing is, if he gets his braking wrong, at least he's got the orange car to hit.
Oh, and he's done it.
Yes, but
well, now Olsen's going back. Oh, superb stuff. Oh, and they must make contact. No. And he's trying to go through again on the inside and couldn't do it. Well, Adrian Olsen was finally robbed of second place. And Steve Thompson had learned a great deal from the episode like before, Keith.
Yeah, and Steve Thompson, if he's... well, I don't think he can make the move on Ray Davis, but certainly he looks very, very good. If he could have made that manoeuvre just a lap before as he tried to, he might have had a chance with getting past Ray Davis.
Just the run in then to the checkered flag through the chicane for the final time. And, well, Steve Thompson isn't going to have a chance to do any more. Gets a wheel on the dirt. So, over the line goes Ray Davis, number 2. He's going to win this one. Another maximum points outing for Ray Davis, car number 2. Behind him, number 40, Steve Thompson. And in 3rd place, from Class C, number 16, Adrian Olsen.
Another big field which needed 2 races because of the strength of the entry was the modified production Saloon, a complicated variety of dual-valve, multi-valve and turbocharged cars. So competitive that it's alleged some of the drivers shave their treaded tyres down to the absolute minimum to give them that extra second of speed.
And a lot of pressure as they come in. Oh, and he pushes the race leader into the gravel. Well, well, well. Oh, sideways he goes. Oh, well hell, sir. Well hell.
Well, that's the catch of the day, and a very good number, 16, of course. Oh, and here we go, 27 going through again, Peter Barnes.
Well, Peter Barnes really is... Donna, now where's Kebab? It must be out there.
Well, Peter Barnes there lost a place in the Capri. He's certainly fighting with that motor, there's no doubt about that. Into Sears, this is crucial to get the power on there. I saw 16, that's Philip Rowley making up a race, but getting out in the rough stuff. Julian Mead making capital of that particular mistake.
And here's, with the leaders then as they head into the final section of this race, and a good win, a splendid performance then from number 3, Andrew Mackenzie. He is a hard-fighting man. He did it the hard way. And in 2nd place, number 36, Josh Ronchetti.
And finally, something reasonably different, the much maligned but much loved Deux Chevaux. In the P&O European Ferries we haven't got floodlights here at Snetterton. That's a bit different anyhow, wasn't it? 4 wheels, 2 wheels. Next week it's 3 wheels and a bit warmer.
It is indeed. I'll be doing away with the old pulley next week. We're at Wakescombe in Essex for motocross with the old sidecars.
Good. Look forward to seeing you then.